In this video, I will talk about trebles hooks disadvantages, and also I will demonstrate you how to replace them. To my understanding, there are three main reasons why you should consider replacing trebles with single hooks. First of all, less damage to the fish. I have a very simple rule when I'm going fishing, and that is to do as little damage to the fish as possible. And trebles are the opposite actually, they do damage the fish quite badly. And quite often when you will be fishing, fish will miss the lure, and those treble hooks will snag onto the fish's face, into fish's eyes, etc. And most likely you will lose such a fish. And it does not really matter whether you will be catching and releasing or taking your catch to consume it. Obviously, if you lost the fish which was hooked into the eyes, for example, most likely that fish will die, so it makes really no sense to use those trebles. The second reason is actually very simple. That's a practicality. Quite often those trebles will snag somewhere like in your clothes, in your net, etc., and quite often in your flesh as well. And it's very difficult to get those trebles out of your net or clothes or your flesh as well. So it means that less time you will be fishing and more time you will be spending whilst untangling those trebles. Also, it's quite important to mention that, let's say if you would be using a lure with a pair of trebles, it would mean that that lure has 6 points, and to catch you need to maintain those points, hook points, sharp. And if you have 6 of them, that can be time consuming, obviously. And if you would have the same situation just with 2 single hooks on the lure, that would be much quicker because you would have to sharpen only 2 points. And the third reason is I don't actually know how to put it correctly into the words, but I will try to. Basically, when I replace trebles with single hooks, every single crank starts to work much better. I believe that it will be to do with the weight of the hooks. Obviously, the trebles will be much heavier than singles, and it means that, let's say if you would have like 2 hooks on the lure would need certain amount of energy to get the lure like wobbling in the water and moving those heavy trebles. So if you replace those trebles with lighter hooks, obviously you will need less energy to get the lure or crank wobbling, because it will need less energy to move those lighter hooks. So as you can see, and I hope I convinced you that you should replace trebles with single hooks. So I will demonstrate how it's done. Before going any further about the single hooks themselves, obviously the loops on the lures can be orientated differently, as you can see in the shot here. So, and according to the orientation of those loops, you will have to buy correct hooks as well. So for example, when the loops will be orientated like that, you will need inline hooks at this one. And then when the loops will be orientated like that, you will need like a normal or regular hooks. Another thing to mention, I always replace the split rings on my cranks as well, because quite often the cranks are coming equipped with big rings, and for me it's not good enough, because if you think about it, the bigger the ring, the further from the lure the hook will end up when you will be fishing, and you want to have your hook as close to the lure as possible. Therefore, I always replace the rings to as small as possible, really, and as a result my hooks ending up very close to the lure as well. And now I will show you how to replace a trebles on a lure. Right, if you are doing this for the first time, I would strongly advise to put some protection in place. By that I mean just put some silicone sleeves on the trebles whilst working on the lure itself. By doing so, you will reduce the chances of you snagging or hooking yourself. Obviously, I am a little bit more experienced because probably I replaced over 100 trebles with singles on my lures. And now, as you can see, the points of this hook are like covered. They can't do any damage. But I won't do the same thing on the other hook because obviously I don't need that. And how you replace a single with a, well, treble with a single hook I meant. All I will do, I will grab a couple of small split rings and I will replace them as well, and also a couple of hooks. Obviously the hook should match with the size of the lure, and all you do is, actually you don't need to use any like fancy tools or fancy pliers. I found that they never work, especially with the small split rings like 3 or 4 mil. All you do at first, you grab just a small knife and split the ring where the ends are more or less, and then you kinda hold that split ring with the finger next to the knife, and then you kinda move the lure so the loop would end up in the split, actually in between the wires of the split ring. And then you grab wire cutters and you just grab gently. You don't want to cut, but just grab gently and twist the ring itself. And that's it. I removed the ring and treble as well. And I will do exactly the same with the next one as well. I will look where that split is, just here. Then I will grab my knife. Will split about couple mils away from the end of the wire of the split ring. Will force the lure in between the wires. Will remove the knife. Then we'll grab wire cutters and we'll twist the ring. Until I will get it off. And that's it. The lure is free of those terrible trebles. And now I will put a nice single hooks and small rings onto the lure. Basically, I will grab a very tiny, that's a 4 mil split ring. Will grab my knife. Will split it a couple mils away from the end of the wire. Then I will put a hook into the split ring. Will twist a little bit the split ring. And then I will look how to attach that split ring onto the loop on the lure, so the orientation would be right. Then I will force the ring into the loop of the lure. And once it's there, I will grab wire cutters and will start twisting. And that's it. As you can see, we have nicely working hook and a very small split ring. Looks awesome, really. And now I will do the same with the second one. Once again, we'll grab a very tiny split ring. We'll split. As you can see, they are so tiny, it's very difficult to work just with my hands. With like special pliers, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I have that. Once again, we'll grab my hook. We'll put gently or force the hook into the split ring. Then we'll grab my wire cutters, we'll force it a little bit more. Then I will look how I need to have my lure onto the loop, so the orientation of the hook would be correct. Okay, it looks like that. We'll force the loop into the ring swivel. Then we'll grab my wire cutters, gently, not cutting through the split ring. We'll rotate until it's in position. And that's it. As you can see, guys, beautiful. With a little bit of practice, you can do one lure in probably under a minute, I guess. Just don't forget to be safe or put some protection in place if you are just starting out. But it will be it from me for today. I hope you will find this video useful. Also, I will leave links to a single hooks and split rings in the description below if you will decide to use them. Thanks for watching. Bye.